The scent of pine needles, sharp and sweet, mingled with the earthy aroma of damp soil as I trudged through the snow-laden woods. Each step crunched a satisfying rhythm beneath my worn boots, the sound muffled by the thick blanket of white that covered everything. My breath plumed in frosty clouds, disappearing into the crisp, cold air of early December. It was a cold that bit at exposed skin, a familiar, invigorating chill that always promised Christmas was drawing near. My old, red wool scarf, hand-knitted by my mother years ago, was wrapped snug around my neck, its soft fibers a comforting barrier against the biting wind. The familiar weight of the axe in my gloved hands, its handle smooth and cold even through the leather, felt reassuring. I was searching for our Christmas tree, a tradition my father and I had upheld for as long as I could remember. This year, though, felt different. A quiet hum of anticipation, tinged with a delicate thread of melancholy, wove its way through my thoughts. The sun, a pale, distant orb, cast long, silvery shadows through the dense canopy of evergreens. Their branches, heavy with snow, bowed gracefully, creating an ethereal archway of white and green. The silence of the forest was profound, broken only by the occasional flutter of a bird or the soft rustle of dry leaves caught in a gust of wind. It was a silence that allowed thoughts to unfurl, to drift and settle like snowflakes. I remembered other years, when my father's booming laughter would echo through these very woods, his voice a warm counterpoint to the winter's hush. He would point out the tallest, fullest trees, his eyes sparkling with a childlike excitement that was infectious. He'd always say, "Gabriel, my boy, a Christmas tree isn't just a tree. It's the heart of our home for the holidays, a keeper of wishes, and a witness to our joy." This year, he hadn't come with me. His voice, usually so robust, had grown softer, a little more fragile with each passing autumn. He'd insisted I go alone, a faint smile on his lips, saying, "You know the way, son. You know what we're looking for. Bring home the best one, just like always." His absence was a palpable thing, a quiet ache in my chest. I missed the comfortable rhythm of our shared task, the easy banter, the way he'd always managed to find the perfect tree after what seemed like an endless search, only to pretend he'd just stumbled upon it by chance. I paused, leaning the axe against a thick trunk, and pulled off one glove, rubbing my chilled fingers together. The air smelled of wood smoke now, carried on the wind from distant chimneys, a scent that always made my heart swell with a bittersweet tenderness. I walked deeper, past towering pines and fragrant firs, my eyes scanning, searching for that one special tree. It wasn't just about height or fullness, it was about a certain spirit, a particular shape that seemed to call out to you. Finally, nestled amongst a cluster of younger trees, I saw it. A noble fir, perhaps 10 feet tall, its branches perfectly symmetrical, each needle a vibrant, deep green, dusted with a fine layer of pristine snow. It stood proudly, almost majestically, a beacon in the quiet woods. A genuine smile touched my lips, spreading a warmth that chased away some of the cold. This was it. This was our tree. With a practiced motion, I picked up the axe, its cold steel gleaming faintly in the pale light. The first swing was clean, a satisfying thud as the blade bit into the trunk. The sound resonated through the stillness, a sharp, decisive note. I continued, each stroke rhythmic and powerful, the smell of fresh sap rising to meet me, a primal, verdant scent that spoke of life even in the heart of winter. When the tree finally swayed, then slowly, gracefully, toppled onto the snow, a cloud of white powder erupted, sparkling like a million tiny diamonds in the air. I stood for a moment, admiring its beauty, a sense of accomplishment warming me from the inside out. This tree, I knew, would bring joy to our home, just as all the others had. Dragging the tree back through the snow was hard work, the branches catching and pulling, but I didn't mind. Each snag, each heavy pull, was a reminder of the tradition, of the coming celebration. When I finally emerged from the tree line, the familiar silhouette of our old farmhouse came into view, its windows glowing with a soft, inviting light. A wisp of smoke curled lazily from the chimney, painting a delicate gray against the pale blue of the twilight sky. My mother would be inside, no doubt already preparing some warm, comforting drink. The thought of her gentle smile, her soft touch, spurred me onward. As I neared the house, I could hear the faint, distant sound of Christmas carols drifting from within, a melody carried on the gentle breeze. It was the familiar voice of Nat King Cole, singing the Christmas song, a timeless classic that always evoked a sense of profound nostalgia. The music, the smell of baking bread that now joined the wood smoke, the sight of the glowing windows, it all conspired to wrap me in a comforting blanket of home. I dragged the tree to the front porch, the rough bark scraping softly against the wooden planks. Taking a deep, satisfying breath of the frosty air, I pushed open the front door. The warmth that enveloped me was immediate, a physical embrace after the cold outside. "Gabriel, my dear, you're back." My mother's voice, warm and melodious, reached me from the kitchen. She appeared in the doorway, her hands dusted with flour, a gentle smile gracing her lips. Her eyes, the same warm brown as mine, held a familiar sparkle. "And what a magnificent tree! Just perfect, darling, absolutely perfect." She moved towards me, pulling off my scarf with practiced ease, her fingers brushing against my chilled cheek. Her touch was always so gentle, so full of love. "Your father's been asking about you. He's by the fire, reading." I nodded, a soft smile on my face. "It was a good hunt, Mom. A truly beautiful tree." I helped her drag the tree inside, the scent of pine instantly filling the air, mingling with the existing aromas of cinnamon, nutmeg, and warm dough. It was the quintessential smell of Christmas in our home, a fragrance that was deeply ingrained in my memory. We set it up in the living room, in its usual spot by the large bay window, its branches now bare of snow, ready for adornment. My mother stepped back, her head tilted, admiring our handiwork. "It truly is stunning, Gabriel. Your father will love it." I went to the living room, drawn by the gentle crackle of the fireplace. My father sat in his favorite armchair, a worn leather volume resting on his lap, a pair of spectacles perched on the end of his nose. The firelight cast dancing shadows on the walls, painting the room in shades of amber and gold. The air here was thick with the scent of old books and pipe tobacco, another familiar and comforting aroma that was uniquely his. He looked up as I entered, his eyes, though a little faded, still held their characteristic warmth. A slow smile spread across his face, crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Ah, my intrepid woodsman returns," he chuckled, his voice a little raspy, but still carrying that familiar resonance. "And with a prize, I hear. Your mother is already singing its praises." He took off his spectacles, placing them carefully on the open book. "Come, sit, son. Tell me about your journey." I pulled up a stool near his chair, basking in the warmth of the fire. The flames licked at the logs, casting a mesmerizing glow, their heat a welcome comfort against the lingering chill in my bones. I recounted my search, the peaceful silence of the forest, the feeling of the axe in my hands, the satisfying thud of each strike. He listened intently, a faint smile playing on his lips, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames. Later that evening, the house was a hive of activity. My mother, humming softly, moved between the kitchen and the dining room, the clatter of pots and pans a cheerful accompaniment to the Christmas carols still playing softly from the old radio in the corner. I was in the living room, stringing lights on the freshly cut tree. The tiny bulbs, some clear, some multicolored, blinked and glowed, transforming the noble fir into a magical cascade of light. The subtle hum of the electricity was a soft counterpoint to the rustle of the needles as I carefully draped each strand. My father, having joined me, sat quietly on the sofa, watching me work, a contented expression on his face. "You have a knack for this, Gabriel," he observed, his voice soft. "Always have. You make it look so effortless." I smiled, adjusting a strand of lights that had drooped slightly. "It's just practice, Dad. Years of it." He chuckled, a sound that was a little weaker than usual, but still held its warmth. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it's a touch of that Christmas magic you always talk about." He paused, his gaze fixed on the shimmering lights. "It looks beautiful, son. Truly beautiful." The aroma of roasting turkey began to waft from the kitchen, rich and savory, mingling with the sweet scent of spiced apple cider simmering on the stove. My stomach rumbled in anticipation. Christmas Eve dinner was always a feast, a celebration of family, warmth, and abundance. My mother, an extraordinary cook, would spend days preparing, ensuring every dish was perfect. The thought of her creamy mashed potatoes, the tart cranberry sauce, the crispy roasted vegetables, and of course, her legendary pumpkin pie, made my mouth water. As the evening deepened, the light outside faded into a deep, velvety indigo, dotted with the first shimmering stars. The air grew even colder, but inside, our home was a haven of warmth and light. Finally, my mother called us to the dining room. The table was set immaculately, as always, with her finest china, polished silverware, and delicate crystal glasses that caught the light, refracting it into tiny rainbows. A centerpiece of pine boughs, cranberries, and shimmering gold ribbons adorned the middle, emanating a subtle, woodsy fragrance. Candles flickered gently, casting a soft, golden glow that made the room feel intimate and sacred. My father, with a little assistance from me, settled into his usual chair at the head of the table. My mother sat opposite him, and I took my place beside her. The silence before dinner began was always a moment of quiet reverence, a time to appreciate the bounty before us and the company we shared. My father cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping over us, a profound love shining in his eyes. "Another Christmas Eve," he began, his voice a little stronger now, filled with emotion. "Another year we are blessed to share this meal, this warmth, this family. For all of it, I am eternally grateful." We bowed our heads as he offered a heartfelt prayer, his words resonating with gratitude and love. When he finished, we raised our heads, and my mother, with her customary grace, began to serve the turkey. The carving knife sliced through the crispy skin, revealing the succulent meat beneath. The rich, savory aroma filled the air, mingling with the other tantalizing scents of the feast. Our plates were soon laden with an array of delicious food, each dish a testament to my mother's culinary artistry and her love for us. As we ate, the conversation flowed easily, a gentle current of shared memories and quiet laughter. We talked about Christmases past, recalling humorous anecdotes and cherished traditions. My mother spoke of the time I, as a small boy, had tried to climb the Christmas tree, convinced I could reach the star at the very top. My father recounted the year a mischievous squirrel had somehow found its way inside, wreaking havoc with the ornaments before being gently coaxed back outside. These stories, told countless times over the years, never grew old. They were woven into the fabric of our family history, threads of joy and love that bound us together. I savored each bite of the delicious food, the warmth of the meal spreading through me, a comforting embrace. The taste of my mother's gravy, rich and smooth, over her fluffy mashed potatoes, was pure comfort. The tartness of the cranberry sauce cut through the richness of the turkey perfectly. Every flavor was a familiar echo of every Christmas Eve I had ever known. The clinking of silverware against china, the soft murmur of our voices, the gentle crackle of the fire from the living room, it all created a symphony of domestic bliss, a feeling of absolute belonging. After we had eaten our fill, and my mother had begun to clear the plates, my father cleared his throat again, a slightly different tone in his voice. We both looked at him, a faint sense of curiosity stirring within us. His gaze was gentle, but there was a deep solemnity in his eyes, a weight that hadn't been there before. He took a sip of water, his fingers trembling ever so slightly as he set the glass down. "There's something I need to tell you both," he began, his voice a little softer now, a tremor detectable beneath the surface. My mother paused, a plate in her hand, her eyes fixed on him. I felt a prickle of unease, a tightening in my chest. His words hung in the air, imbued with an unspoken significance. The soft glow of the candles seemed to flicker, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. The usual cheerful sounds of the kitchen had faded, leaving only the gentle crackle of the fireplace from the other room and the quiet hum of the old refrigerator. He looked at my mother first, a tender, wistful expression on his face, a lifetime of shared love reflected in his gaze. He reached across the table, his hand finding hers, his fingers gently intertwining with hers. Her eyes, usually so bright, were now wide with a mixture of concern and apprehension. Then he turned his gaze to me, a profound love mixed with a quiet strength shining from their depths. I felt a lump form in my throat, a premonition of something significant, something life-altering. "As you know," he continued, his voice steadying, "I haven't been feeling my best this past year. The doctors, well, they've given me some news." He paused, taking a slow, deep breath, as if gathering his strength. The silence in the room stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the soft tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. My mother's grip on his hand tightened, her knuckles turning white. I found myself holding my breath, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. "They've told me," he said, his voice dropping almost to a whisper, "that this will likely be my last Christmas with you both." The words, though softly spoken, landed with the force of a physical blow. The air seemed to leave my lungs, and the room spun for a moment. My mother gasped, a choked sound that tore at my heart. Her eyes immediately welled with tears, glistening in the candlelight. I felt a searing pain, a sharp, cold agony that pierced through me. It was as if the very foundations of my world had just shifted, crumbled beneath my feet. My mind reeled, struggling to comprehend, to process the immensity of what he had just said. Last Christmas, the words echoed in my head, a cruel, impossible pronouncement. He couldn't mean it. It had to be a mistake. My father, strong and steadfast, the anchor of our family, couldn't be leaving us. Not now. Not ever. Tears sprang to my eyes, blurring the gentle flicker of the candles, blurring his beloved face. A profound sense of grief, raw and devastating, washed over me, threatening to consume me whole. My mother, her face now streaked with tears, choked out, "No, Arthur, no. That can't be true." Her voice was filled with a desperate plea, a mother's instinct to protect, to deny the unbearable. He squeezed her hand gently, his gaze unwavering, full of a quiet resolve that was both heartbreaking and inspiring. "I'm afraid it is, my love," he said, his voice filled with a profound sorrow, but also with a strange, serene acceptance. "The illness has progressed further than we knew. There's not much more they can do." He looked at me then, his eyes, though filled with sadness, also held a fierce, unwavering love. "I wanted you both to know. I didn't want this special night to pass without sharing it. I wanted to tell you here, together, surrounded by the warmth of our home, the spirit of Christmas." The silence that followed was suffocating, filled with unshed tears and unspoken fears. The once joyful atmosphere of the dining room had been shattered, replaced by a heavy shroud of grief. I could feel the hot tears streaming down my cheeks, a silent river of sorrow. My mother buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. My own throat was tight, choked with emotion, making speech impossible. My father, ever the one to offer comfort, even in his own pain, reached out to me. His hand, warm and strong, enveloped mine. "Gabriel, my son," he said, his voice tender, "please don't be sad. Not tonight. Not yet." He paused, taking another breath. "I wanted to tell you not to despair, but to embrace these moments. To cherish this Christmas, this time we have together. To fill it with joy, with laughter, with all the love we share." He spoke of his life, not with regret, but with a deep sense of gratitude. He talked about his love for my mother, a love that had blossomed and deepened with each passing year, a constant, unwavering beacon in his life. He spoke of his pride in me, his son, and all that I had become. He reminisced about simple moments, walks in the woods, evenings by the fire, shared meals, the sound of our laughter filling the house. His voice, though tinged with sadness, was also imbued with a profound peace, a quiet dignity that was almost unbearable to witness. My mother, her tears now flowing freely, looked at him with an expression of heartbreaking tenderness. "Arthur," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "my love, my life." She leaned across the table, her head resting on his shoulder, her arms wrapping around him in a tight embrace. He held her close, stroking her hair with a gentle hand, his own eyes now glistening with unshed tears. The sight of them, so deeply connected, so vulnerable yet so strong, was a poignant testament to their enduring love. I sat there, numb, the words replaying in my mind, each one a sharp blade twisting in my gut. His last Christmas, the weight of it was immense, a crushing burden. Yet, as I watched my parents, their embrace a silent promise of eternal love, a different emotion began to stir within me. It wasn't just grief, but also a fierce determination. A determination to honor his words, to make this Christmas, his last Christmas, the most memorable, the most beautiful one we had ever shared. The candles continued to flicker, casting their soft glow on our tear-stained faces, illuminating the profound moment we were sharing. The scent of pine and cinnamon still hung in the air, a bittersweet reminder of the season. My father, pulling back from my mother, looked at us both, a serene smile gracing his lips. "I want to watch you open presents, to hear you laugh, to feel the warmth of our family around me. I want to make memories, precious ones, that will last long after I'm gone." His voice was soft, but his conviction was clear, unwavering. And in that moment, despite the overwhelming sorrow, a faint glimmer of hope, a spark of resolve, ignited within me. We would do exactly that. We would make this Christmas a celebration of his life, of our love, of the enduring magic of family. We would fill every moment with joy, with laughter, with all the warmth and affection we could muster. For him. For us. For the indelible memories that would sustain us in the years to come. Continua a historia. The following days leading up to Christmas Day were a blur of poignant beauty and shared tenderness. The somber news my father had delivered on Christmas Eve had initially cast a heavy shadow over our home, a quiet, aching presence that lingered in every room. Yet, true to his gentle request, we, as a family, made a conscious effort to imbue every moment with the warmth and joy he so deeply desired. The initial shock slowly gave way to a quiet determination, a shared unspoken vow to make his final Christmas one of profound love and lasting memory. Each morning, the sun, still pale and wintry, would cast long, silvery streaks across the snow-covered garden outside our living room window. The air, though frigid, carried the faint, crisp scent of wood smoke and frost. My mother, her eyes still holding a delicate sadness, moved with a renewed purpose. She baked his favorite cookies, sugar cookies shaped like stars and angels, decorated with meticulous care, and rich, spicy gingerbread men. The comforting aromas of vanilla, cinnamon, and ginger filled the kitchen, a fragrant testament to her unwavering love. I would often join her, helping to roll out the dough, the feel of the cool, smooth surface beneath my palms a grounding sensation. We spoke little, but the silence between us was filled with an understanding that transcended words, a shared grief and a mutual desire to bring him comfort. My father, for his part, seemed to draw strength from our efforts. He would sit by the fire, a soft wool blanket draped over his legs, a gentle smile on his face as he watched my mother and me. He encouraged us to play Christmas carols, the familiar melodies filling the house with a comforting familiarity. We pulled out old photo albums, their pages brittle and yellowed with age, and he would point to faded pictures, recounting stories from his youth, tales of his own Christmases as a boy, his voice rich with nostalgia and warmth. I would sit beside him, listening intently, absorbing every word, every nuance, storing these precious memories in the deepest chambers of my heart. The sound of his voice, describing the crackle of a fire in his childhood home, the scent of his mother's cooking, the crisp feel of snow on his face, made each story a sensory journey for me. The Christmas tree, which I had carefully chosen and my mother and I had adorned, now stood as a glowing centerpiece in our living room. Its fragrant boughs were laden with twinkling lights, their gentle hum a soft counterpoint to the crackling fire. Delicate glass ornaments, some heirloom pieces that had belonged to my grandparents, others handmade by my mother and me over the years, shimmered with a quiet elegance. My father would often reach out a hand, his fingers tracing the curve of a glass bird or the rough texture of a wooden angel, his eyes filled with a faraway tenderness. He'd occasionally share a story behind a particular ornament, a small anecdote that would bring a gentle smile to our faces, or a quiet tear to our eyes. He'd recall the time he had bought the small, tarnished silver bell from a street vendor in a bustling European market, the vibrant sounds and smells of that distant memory momentarily bringing the past to life. One afternoon, a few days before Christmas, my father asked me to join him in his study, a room usually reserved for his quiet contemplation and extensive book collection. The air in there always smelled distinctly of aged paper and leather, a scent I associated deeply with him. He sat at his large oak desk, a leather-bound journal open before him. The late afternoon light, filtered through the thick winter clouds, cast a soft, diffused glow through the window. He gestured for me to sit in the comfortable armchair opposite him. "Gabriel," he began, his voice a little strained but firm, "there's something else I want to share with you, a story from my past, a secret almost, that I've held onto for many years. I feel it's time you knew." My heart quickened, a sense of anticipation mixed with apprehension. He closed the journal, running a hand over its worn leather cover. The silence was palpable, filled with the weight of untold stories. He began to speak, his voice taking on the cadence of a storyteller. He spoke of his childhood, of growing up in a small, quiet town nestled in the mountains, a place I had only heard him mention in passing. He described the harsh winters, the way the snow would pile up, trapping them indoors for days, the only sounds the creak of the old house and the howl of the wind. He painted a vivid picture of a childhood that was both simple and challenging, filled with the warmth of family love but also the hardships of rural life. He described the warmth of the roaring fire, the taste of his mother's hearty stews, the feel of rough wool against his skin. He then spoke of a specific Christmas, one that had deeply shaped him. He was a boy, perhaps 10 years old, and his family was struggling. His father, a hard-working but often unlucky farmer, had fallen ill, leaving them with little to nothing for the holiday season. He described the gnawing hunger in his belly, the threadbare clothes, the chill that seemed to seep into their very bones despite the roaring fire. He spoke of the desperate sadness he felt, watching his younger siblings, their faces drawn with hunger, their innocent eyes filled with a quiet longing for the Christmas joy they knew was beyond reach. He vividly described the raw, burning pain of seeing his own mother's tired, tear-streaked face as she tried to make sense of the hardship. "I remember the smell of desperation in the air that year, Gabriel," he said, his voice husky with emotion. "It was a cold, bitter smell, unlike anything I've ever experienced since. It clung to everything, to our clothes, to the walls of the house, even to our dreams." He paused, his eyes unfocused, lost in the depths of his memory. On Christmas Eve, the snow was falling so thickly you couldn't see past the front porch. We had no tree, no presents, barely any food. My mother, God bless her soul, was trying to bake a small, sad loaf of bread, the last of our flour, to at least have something special for Christmas morning. I could smell the faint, comforting aroma of yeast, but it was overshadowed by the pervasive cold and emptiness. He described the sound of the wind howling outside, a mournful lament that echoed the sadness in his heart. He went on to describe how, consumed by a desperate desire to bring some joy to his family, he had decided to do something. Despite the raging blizzard, he had slipped out of the house, unnoticed, wrapped in his father's old, oversized coat, the wool rough and scratchy against his skin. He had ventured into the blinding snow, his small boots sinking deep with every step, the biting wind tearing at his face. He'd walked for what felt like an eternity, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his hands and feet growing numb with cold. He had a singular, desperate goal, to find something, anything, that could be a Christmas present for his siblings. The feel of the icy snowflakes against his face, the deafening roar of the wind, the stinging cold in his lungs, it was all etched into his memory with agonizing clarity. He eventually stumbled upon the edge of the small, impoverished village nearby. The houses were dark, quiet, most people hunkered down against the storm. But then, he saw it, a small, flickering light in the window of the general store. The owner, a gruff but kind old man, was still inside, preparing to close up for the holiday. My father, then just a boy, had gathered all his courage and pushed open the heavy wooden door, the small bell above jingling faintly, a stark contrast to the roar of the wind outside. The warmth of the store, the smell of spices and dry goods, was an intoxicating comfort after the bitter cold. He described how he had approached the counter, his small voice barely a whisper, and explained his predicament to the store owner. He had nothing to offer in return, only his desperate plea. He spoke of his family's hunger, of his siblings' sadness, of his fervent wish for just one small thing to make their Christmas bearable. The old man, initially stern-faced, had listened patiently, his expression softening as the boy spoke. My father remembered the silence of the store, broken only by the crackle of the stove in the corner and the occasional gust of wind rattling the window panes. "And then, Gabriel," my father said, his voice now thick with emotion, "he did something I will never forget. He reached under the counter and pulled out a small, roughly carved wooden bird, painted a cheerful bright red. It was a simple toy, but to me, it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. He also gave me a handful of dried apples and a small, perfectly ripe orange, a true luxury in those days. And he didn't ask for a single thing in return. He just said, 'Merry Christmas, son. Now get home to your family.'" The feel of the smooth, cool wood of the bird in my numb fingers, the sweet, tangy smell of the dried apples, the citrusy burst of the orange, they were sensations of pure, unadulterated hope. My father paused, his gaze fixed on some distant point, his eyes glistening. I remember running home through the blizzard, the little wooden bird clutched tightly in my hand, the dried apples and orange tucked safely inside my coat. The cold didn't bother me anymore. The wind seemed to sing a different song. I was filled with such a profound sense of relief, of gratitude, that it felt like my heart would burst. When I arrived home, my mother was frantic with worry, but when she saw what I had brought, her tears turned to tears of joy. We shared the orange and dried apples for Christmas breakfast, each segment, each piece, tasting like pure magic. And the little wooden bird became the most cherished possession in our house, a symbol of hope, of unexpected kindness. He finally looked at me, his eyes now filled with a deep, profound wisdom. That Christmas, Gabriel, taught me the true meaning of the season. It taught me that Christmas isn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's about kindness, about compassion, about the willingness to help those in need, even when you have nothing to give. It's about the small, quiet acts of love that can illuminate the darkest of times. It taught me the profound power of human connection, the way a simple act of generosity can warm a soul more effectively than any fire. He paused again, a deep sigh escaping his lips. That little red bird, Gabriel, it taught me everything. A profound silence filled the study, heavy with the weight of his story, with the echoes of a distant past. My own eyes were now brimming with tears, a lump lodged in my throat. I could almost feel the biting cold of that blizzard, the gnawing hunger, the desperate hope that had driven a small boy into the storm. I could almost taste the sweet, tangy dried apples, the juicy burst of the orange. The image of the small, red wooden bird, a beacon of hope in a bleak Christmas, was seared into my mind. "Why are you telling me this now, Dad?" I finally managed to whisper, my voice thick with emotion. He reached across the desk, his hand, now frail and trembling slightly, finding mine. He held it gently, his grip surprisingly firm. "Because, my son," he said, his voice soft, yet resonating with an unshakable conviction, "I want you to carry that lesson forward. I want you to remember that kindness, that generosity, that spirit of giving, is the most precious gift of all. It's the true essence of Christmas, and it's a legacy I want to pass on to you. It's not something you can wrap in a bough or place under a tree. It's something you carry in your heart, something you live by. It's about leaving the world a little brighter than you found it, one small act of kindness at a time." He looked at me, his eyes shining with a profound love and a quiet plea. "Promise me, Gabriel, that you will never forget that lesson. Promise me you will always strive to be that unexpected act of kindness for someone else, especially during Christmas. Promise me you will nurture that spirit, carry it within you, and pass it on." I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat making it difficult to speak. I looked at my father, his face etched with the wisdom of a life well lived, his eyes holding the depth of unspoken love. I saw not a man facing his final Christmas, but a man imparting his most profound legacy, his deepest truth. "I promise, Dad," I choked out, my voice thick with emotion. "I promise." He squeezed my hand gently, a slow, serene smile spreading across his face. A weight, a silent burden, seemed to lift from his shoulders, replaced by a quiet peace. The last rays of the winter sun, now a faint, golden hue, finally broke through the clouds, painting the room in a warm, ethereal glow. The old wooden bird, no longer physically present, felt alive in the story he had just shared, a small, vibrant symbol of enduring hope. And in that moment, I understood that his greatest gift to me was not something material, but an invaluable lesson, a guiding light that would forever shape my own Christmases to come, a legacy of selfless love and unwavering kindness. Continua a historia. Christmas Day dawned, a silent symphony of white outside our windows. The snow had continued to fall softly through the night, transforming our world into a pristine, hushed landscape. The familiar creak of the old floorboards and the gentle murmur of my mother's voice from the kitchen stirred me from a fitful sleep. A quiet sense of reverence hung in the air, a profound awareness of the day's significance. I could hear the faint, comforting aroma of coffee brewing, mingled with the sweet scent of cinnamon rolls my mother was undoubtedly baking, a special treat for Christmas morning. I dressed slowly, each movement deliberate, savoring the quiet moments before the day truly began. As I made my way downstairs, the living room glowed with the warm, inviting light of the decorated tree. Its myriad lights twinkled merrily, reflecting off the polished ornaments, casting dancing patterns on the walls. The air was thick with the rich, earthy scent of pine, a smell that had, over the past few days, become inextricably linked with this profound, bittersweet Christmas. My father was already in his armchair by the fireplace, a soft wool blanket draped over his shoulders, his gaze fixed on the gently flickering flames. He looked peaceful, almost serene, his face bathed in the soft, golden light. My mother was bringing a tray of coffee and cinnamon rolls to the small side table next to him. She moved with her usual grace, her movements gentle, her eyes holding a deep tenderness as she glanced at him. The clinking of the cups and saucers was a soft melody in the quiet morning. "Merry Christmas, Gabriel," my father said, his voice a little softer than usual, but filled with a quiet joy. His eyes, though weary, held a warmth that embraced me completely. My mother echoed the sentiment, her smile a little wistful, but genuine. I returned their greetings, my voice a little husky with emotion, and settled onto the rug in front of the fireplace, a cup of warm coffee cradled in my hands. The heat seeped into my palms, a comforting physical sensation. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping our coffee, the gentle crackle of the fire and the soft hum of the Christmas tree lights filling the air. It was a moment of profound peace, a shared space of love and quiet contemplation. The cinnamon rolls, warm and fragrant, tasted of home and comfort, their sweetness a gentle balm against the underlying sorrow. I savored each bite, each sip, acutely aware of the preciousness of this moment, of every shared breath. After a while, my mother, with a soft sigh, went to the tree, her movements slow and deliberate. She began to distribute the presents, each one carefully wrapped in festive paper and adorned with ribbons. The rustle of the paper, the soft clink of a small box, the gentle snap of a ribbon, these were familiar sounds, sounds that always signaled the beginning of Christmas morning. My father watched her, a serene smile on his face, his eyes following her every movement. My mother handed my father a package wrapped in deep green paper, tied with a simple gold ribbon. He took it gently, his fingers trembling slightly as he untied the ribbon. The paper tore softly as he unwrapped it, revealing a thick, hand-knitted scarf in shades of deep blue and forest green. It was a beautiful piece, clearly made with great love and care, its wool soft and luxurious to the touch. He held it up, a look of profound appreciation on his face. "My dear," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you." He reached out, his hand finding hers, and he squeezed it gently, a silent communication of their deep, abiding love. My mother's eyes, shimmering with unshed tears, returned his gaze, a silent promise of enduring affection. The warmth of the fire seemed to intensify, embracing them both. Then it was my turn to open a gift from them. My mother handed me a rectangular package, heavier than I expected. I carefully unwrapped the paper, my fingers tracing the outline of the box. Inside, nestled in soft tissue paper, was a beautifully bound book. Its cover was a rich, dark leather, embossed with intricate gold lettering. I recognized the title immediately, a collection of classic adventure stories, a genre my father and I had always shared a love for. The scent of new paper and leather was intoxicating. "I remember you talking about this collection, Gabriel," my father said, his voice soft. "You always loved a good adventure. I hope you enjoy it." I ran my hand over the smooth leather, the weight of the book feeling substantial and comforting. "Thank you, Dad. Mom. It's perfect. Truly perfect." The feel of the smooth, cool leather, the subtle scent of new paper, the promise of countless adventures within its pages, it was more than just a book, it was a connection, a shared love that would endure. As the morning progressed, we opened our gifts slowly, deliberately, savoring each moment. There was no rush, no frantic tearing of paper, just a quiet appreciation for each thoughtful present. My mother received a delicate silver locket, engraved with a small, intricate floral design, a timeless piece that brought a soft gasp of delight to her lips. She held it close, her fingers tracing the design, her eyes shining. The cool, smooth metal against her skin, the gentle clink of the chain, it was a symbol of enduring beauty and love. I, in turn, received a new pair of sturdy leather gloves from my mother, their scent of rich leather a familiar comfort, perfect for my winter walks. The feel of the soft, supple leather against my skin was a subtle promise of warmth on cold days. We admired each gift, offering sincere words of thanks, our voices gentle, filled with gratitude. The pile of colorful wrapping paper slowly grew around the base of the tree, a testament to the quiet joy of the morning. Finally, there was one last gift, a small, unassuming package wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with a simple string. My father held it in his hands, his gaze fixed on it, a contemplative expression on his face. He then looked at me, a profound tenderness in his eyes. "This one, Gabriel," he said, his voice imbued with a quiet significance, "is for you. From me." He handed it to me. The package was surprisingly light, almost weightless. I untied the string carefully, the rough texture of it against my fingers, and peeled back the brown paper. Inside, nestled in a small, wooden box, was a tiny, roughly carved wooden bird, painted a cheerful, bright red. Its colors were a little faded with age, the wood worn smooth in places, but its spirit was undeniable. It was the bird from his story, the one he had received on that transformative Christmas Eve long ago. A gasp escaped my lips, a sound of profound awe and overwhelming emotion. My heart lurched, a wave of tenderness washing over me. I lifted the bird from its box, its smooth, cool wood fitting perfectly into the palm of my hand. I could feel the faint indentations where a small boy's fingers had clutched it so many years ago, the countless times it had been held, cherished, a tangible link to a past I now understood so intimately. The faint, subtle scent of aged wood seemed to emanate from it, carrying with it a silent history. "The little red bird," I whispered, my voice thick with tears. My father nodded, a serene smile on his face. "Yes, son. My little red bird. I want you to have it now. To remind you of the lesson. To remind you that kindness, that hope, can be found in the smallest of things, even in the darkest of times." He reached out, his frail hand covering mine, gently closing my fingers around the wooden bird. His touch was warm, comforting, a silent blessing. "It will be a tangible reminder of the spirit of Christmas, Gabriel," he continued, his voice softer now, a little tired. "Of the true gifts that matter. And a reminder that even when I'm no longer here, that spirit, that love, will always be with you. You carry it within you now, my son. It's your legacy." Tears streamed down my face, hot and cleansing, but they were not tears of despair. They were tears of profound love, of overwhelming gratitude, of a deep, abiding connection that transcended words, transcended time. I clutched the small wooden bird tightly in my hand, its smooth, cool surface a powerful anchor in the midst of my surging emotions. It was more than just a toy, it was a symbol, a promise, a piece of my father's heart. My mother came over, her arm wrapping around my shoulders, her touch a comforting presence. Her eyes were also wet with tears, but her smile was gentle, filled with a quiet strength. We sat there, the three of us, in the warm glow of the Christmas tree, the silence filled with the profound weight of shared love, shared memories, and the bittersweet beauty of a final Christmas. The little red bird, small and unassuming, felt like the most precious gift I had ever received, a beacon of hope and kindness that would forever guide me. Its quiet presence spoke volumes, a testament to a life lived with integrity and a love that would endure beyond any earthly boundaries. The scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air, intertwining with the subtle aroma of aged wood, creating a fragrant tapestry of this sacred, unforgettable morning.